Applying for your child. Each child must have their own application. You can apply for your child or they can apply for themselves. Eligibility. Your child may be eligible for settled or pre-settled status if they are under 21, from the EU, Switzerland, Norway, Iceland or Liechtenstein, or you, or your spouse or civil partner, are. Although the deadline for applications for most people was the 30th of June 2021, you can still apply for your child, or they can apply for themselves, if you lived in the UK by the 31st of December 2020. They must have been born or adopted in the UK, or joined you here, either on or after the 1st of April 2021. Before the 1st of April 2021, but, for example, you did not know that they needed to apply to the scheme, this will be considered as reasonable grounds for not applying by the deadline. If your child was born in the UK but is not a British citizen, they will still need to apply. You can check if they're a British citizen if you're not sure. What documents you'll need. You'll need proof of your child's identity. You can use the same types of documents for proving your own identity, for example a passport or biometric residence card, if it has not expired. Your relationship to your child. When you started living in the UK, if you have not applied to the scheme. When your child was born or adopted, if this was on or after the 1st of April 2021, for example a birth certificate or adoption order. When your child started living here, if they started living in the UK by the 31st of December 2020. Your child's continuous residence. If your child started living in the UK by the 31st of December 2020, you'll need evidence that shows they were here in the last 6 months of 2020. Check what evidence you can use to show when your child started living in the UK, and that they've continued to live here. If you have applied to the EU settlement scheme. When you apply for your child you can link their application to yours. This means that if your own application is successful, your child will usually get the same status as you. To do this, select the option to apply, using your parent's residence, then enter your application number. You will need to do this for each child you apply for. You can use your own email address in the application if your child does not have one. You can apply for your child anytime after you've made your own application. You do not need to wait for a decision. Your child will not get the same status as you if they're eligible for settled status and you have pre-settled status. If you have not applied to the EU settlement scheme. If you're eligible for the scheme, but did not apply by the deadline, you'll have to apply yourself and show why you did not apply by the deadline. If you're not eligible for the scheme but your child is, you can still apply for them. For example, if they live in the UK and you do not. If your child does not have 5 years continuous residence. If your child does not have 5 years continuous residence when they apply, they'll usually get pre-settled status, unless you've been granted pre-settled status. You can apply to change this to settled status once they have reached 5 years continuous residence or you've been granted settled status. You must do this before their pre-settled status expires. This will be 5 years after the date they got pre-settled status. If you're an Irish citizen. You do not need to apply for settled or pre-settled status if you're an Irish citizen who was living in the UK by the 31st of December 2020, but you can choose to do so. If you apply, your children will also need their own application unless they have Irish citizenship, British citizenship, dual British and Irish citizenship. If you're an Irish citizen and your child is not a British citizen, they'll be eligible for either the same status that you could get based on how long you've lived in the UK. Settled or pre-settled status based on their own residence. This also applies if you're from Northern Ireland and have Irish Brie.